Howdy from Northwest Arkansas. My name is Reagan. I wanted to publish a video out in the wild today to just reflect on the past few years of living with this god-awful pandemic. Though first, I did want to give a quick reach out to any of those of you who are suffering with relationship problems or financial issues, which the whole world over is feeling right now. You know, I'm not seeking to minimize my problems or yours, but the suffering that is currently ongoing in the world has no limits. You know, with inflation being the way it is and supply chains disrupted, energy costs going up, that causes tremendous pressure on people, and under pressure people blow, obviously, myself included. I had a few blowouts during this pandemic, and part of this video is somewhat inspired by another content creator, Joel Harver. He has about over 1 million subscribers. He makes really funny comedic content. I think he's up in the Great Lakes area, a little bit younger than me, but he basically titled a video for whoever needs it. And in it, he describes someone, I mean, this is really bizarre, guys, that impersonated him. He read a story on Reddit that someone that impersonated him with his own set of problems, and it's just really bizarre. Like, I can't explain it in detail. I don't know the exact, specifics. I just know that it's hard. Like, it's fucking hard right now. And so what I wanted to do is just retrace back through the glory times, the good times before this hit. Because once I saw the pandemic hit community transmission, I knew it was going to change our world forever. Nothing was going to be the same. And I was following it very closely. Before I get into that, though, the bill, in our dysfunctional Congress can't seem to get anything done. There are Republicans who think that climate change is a real problem, as it's flooding their states and causing tremendous damage. But yet they voted no on the climate legislation. Not that it has any effect, guys. This thing is building more pipelines. Many other doomers talking about this. Like, it does nothing. We're not addressing the fundamental problem of removing CO2 from the atmosphere. There's no plan at which we can transition to green energy without using fossil fuels. Let's be clear on that. Right? So what is this about? I guess this is about being hit with a double dip of living standards. Because I graduated into the Great Recession. This is a bike trail also. I graduated into the Great Recession, which, by the way, was the worst thing to happen to our economy since World War II, and even World War I, if you wanted to go so far back as far as that. And then working through stagnated wages through the next 10 years, my generation got nowhere. And yeah, if you had children, you are definitely in the hot seat. No doubt. The pressure you should be feeling right now is so extreme. My heart goes out to you. But then, so what was I doing? What happened before? The 2010s were like a glory time, right? It was like we had smartphones, we could travel freely. Man, it was like nothing was beyond our reach. And I was in 2017, 2018, I was doing gig work, production, like for weddings, big concert venues, corporate events, setting up lights and trusts, big bars, with different kinds of lights on it, all kinds of stuff, wiring things. It was rough work. It's not an easy life, the road life. So when you go to a concert, you think of how all this stuff is set up and taken down at the end of the day. And yeah, it's rough because you got to go back out there after the venue is closed at like 2 in the morning and break down all this stuff, and then you don't get home till 4. And it is pretty cliquey and not the most polite crew, let's say. Meat sauce! Alright, so I was living in my shitbox little apartment in Dallas, Texas. Little chicken coop apartment, several $100s a month. Doing road gig work, but I was transitioning into delivery work with the food apps, which was kind of right on time, because little did I know the pandemic would be making business boom for a while. And meanwhile, business as usual. Parties were popping. It was the good life, you know, going to art galleries, all of that, the city life. What I ended up doing was just transitioning to full-time to delivery app work, because the gig industry, the roadie production crew work was somewhat inconsistent because it relied on actual events happening, and the crew, at least in this department, was kind of toxic. So, no surprise, the owner was a Christian family man who had mouths to feed. And then I saw the pandemic, and then I was doing gig work full time, and then the pandemic hit, and you know, all your packages, everything that comes to your door, people working their asses off to make this happen. You know, I only feel for you if you were doing this in like a major metropolitan city like Seattle or Dallas, or you know, any major city doing this kind of work. It could be pretty grueling, pretty rough on you. Cool, just trying to record a video. We're hopeless. We're hopeless. And then so, yeah, and then we hit community transmission. It was kind of scary. All of us stayed inside for a while, right? And right before that, though, I was delivering corporate orders. And let me tell you guys, man, you see this shit on TV, like law offices and you know, board meetings. When you go to these fucking places, man, it's surreal. It's like you go into this high-rise building up to the 40th floor, you go in and it's just marbled walls up and down, one lonely little secretary who's kind of like, you know, hardened and a little fed up with your bullshit already, even though you hadn't said anything to her at all. Dude, it's unconscionable, okay? It's so gross. And that was not just one, I mean multiple. I've been to the ExxonMobil meetings. Like, Dallas is the headquarters of oil and banks, all right? That Chase Bank, ExxonMobil, like that, their headquarters was there. And so all the ancillary sort of businesses, law firms and corporate, you know, are all up in there, man. It was ridiculous. But I was making good money. I was making like anywhere from like $80 to sometimes like $150 just by lunch, just for like 2 or 3 hours of work. I would walk in, drop the shit off, turn, walk out, don't say shit to anybody. I was a king. And then I would go out and deliver or do Uber at night and I had like $200, $250 days, you know, easily, especially on the weekend or towards the end of the week. And then the pandemic hit and everybody went home. Business pretty much cut down to a zero, or they started transitioning so that like people partially came in. I delivered to AstraZeneca, the vaccine maker, yeah, insurance firms, you name it. And they would just only select people would come in on certain days, and they would have it kind of, it didn't work out as well lucrative. It wasn't lucrative anymore. And everything was shutting down, man. And it was just so disgusting seeing the attitude of people, especially in the southern states, throughout this whole thing. There were many businesses that just refused to wear masks, and I'm sure they all got COVID. I have yet to be hit by the bug, yet I am triple vaxxed. I do intend on getting the 4th vaccine soon. And if I did, it must have been so mild that I didn't notice it. But so I was living like the dream, riding around the city, setting up parties, then delivering for, food gig app, then corporate food gig app, like luncheons and stuff. And then the COVID hit, everything went to shit, and I was like, this isn't worth living the city life anymore. Like, the cost of living is too insane. I was paying so much money for a little box apartment by myself. But then it was about 2019, 2020, right before the pandemic struck, that I started to have really clear realizations that we were headed off the cliff, that we were accelerating off the cliff, as you say. And then that started me on the journey to create this channel and reach out to others who were also feeling the same way, that we ain't turning this ship around. 8 billion people, we ain't turning it around, right? There's no fucking way we can reorganize all of the distribution channels and grow all our food other different places. Europe's food crisis is going to hit peak here soon. The drought has already affected at least 20 or 30% of their crop in multiple crops. Okay, not just like little grapes and wine, here and there. Like, no, it's really hitting them. Their channels are drying low. That they can't cool their nuclear plants off. Like, it's fucking horrendous. I knew that if things ever went south and I didn't want to live in the city anymore, I was going to move to hot springs. And a lot of gangsters felt the same way in American history. Al Capone, many others had visited hot springs and thought, wow, like, this is a great place to get away from the city, and relax. But then I get there and it's just full of like old people. It's a geriatric community. There's just like, businesses are boarded up. I mean, no business was spared. Everybody got hit by this. And I ended up just working my ass off, not being able to find a place. There was no affordable housing. I was living in a motel, started recording this channel a lot more. And then I was gonna move in with a doomer in Florida, but then their family member got COVID. So COVID just kept coming along and rearing its ugly head and creating like just problems, let alone if you tried to fly or travel to another country. Just being in your own country was problematic enough. And I was paying way too much money to stay in this bad motel, trying to find a place to live. And then I heard about Fayetteville being a really up-and-coming place in northwest Arkansas. And so I didn't know anyone or anything here, and I just said, screw it. COVID served as a reminder of how tough things can get. And whether you want to deny it, that it's a real thing or not, it affected our whole way of life. And the analogs to climate change have already been discussed many times in many blog posts and articles. I just want to reiterate it, that if you made poor decisions in regards to the most important decisions of your life, those being your relationship, your intimate relationship choices, like who you chose to be with, and your education, that, you reap what you sow, okay? Because when the going gets hard, you got to do what you need to survive, mentally, financially, everything. And for my generation, it's no fucking joke, man. It's no joke. We are the first generation that we can truthfully say that we are worse off than our parents at our age, okay? And despite the CHIPS Act being signed into law and all these climate change provisions, what good is all of it if there's no food to eat in a few years? If we can't generate electricity for the failing infrastructure in our country? It's so nauseating and sociopathic. We can suffer with so much and just blindly keep going, like though those in charge just want us to keep kicking the can down the road. And if you made poor choices in your life, man, you're gonna feel that. So from this point forward, I guess I would encourage my viewers to continue living with in the path look up Buddhism and rediscover what it means to have a right mind, to make right action, right choice, have right speech. Think with every step you take, what are the long-term consequences of this? How am I going to live this down? So much of lay people don't do this. And no surprise, I don't take questions from them. I don't listen to the troubles and woes of a lot of normies, a lot of normal people. Because I simply don't have the time. I'm trying to live my life. Trying to record content, trying to gather a tribe. Have all you guys together. This is also my first experience dating a woman with children. And living with them. So there were a lot of firsts in the past few years. Moving to a new place, taking on a new occupation, this rearranging of our lives. COVID accelerated all that. Made us rethink, what we were here doing this for. Well, I'm gonna walk back to the house and have some breakfast. I just wanted to give my thoughts on a few things. How fucked up and crazy the COVID-19 pandemic experience was, where I was before and during that time. And, like I said, the inequality, it's just amplified everything. It's so disgusting. People are truly heartless, and conditioned to only think about themselves. Most people. Or at least enough people that makes me disgusted and wanna not participate as much as I can. And this new Inflation Reduction Act is a load of dog shit. Planes are gonna keep flying, boats are gonna keep going. We're not stopping this train. I'm kind of struggling with what content to pull up next. I want to read an interview in The Guardian, and I want to cover the effects of having an ice-free Arctic again. It's I don't know how many times sometimes to rehash these things to get the point across that we're not making progress and we are in irreversible and abrupt climate change. Okay? We're going to see just so much hell, so much more hell and suffering that'll make COVID look like, as Antonio Guterres points out, a dinner party. Alright, tribe. I'll catch up with you next week. Stay frosty.